Just to set the scene a little bit, we only had a 19% drop off, with it being 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday afternoon, just before the weekend.
In most events, we usually pre-assign breakout sessions. We tell everybody where exactly they have to go. With the breakout sessions that they were planning, there was a choose your own adventure. So good morning, guys. We're here to talk about an event that we hosted and produced in this summer in August. And it was about, we were accommodating up to 800 participants in about 21 individual sessions throughout a 4-hour time frame. With that being said, we had about 10 producers staffed to support each of those sessions in those rooms. And there was a lot of movement, which we'll get into, kind of discuss what was interesting and unique about this virtual event. But to quickly introduce myself, my name is John. I'm an account director at Leading Edge, and I was the primary communicator and liaison between the client, our production team, our management team, and everybody involved, including presenters and participants. So if you guys like to quickly introduce yourselves, we'll get into the event overview.
Yeah, sure. So hi, Gary Deemer. I'm the Director of Production here at Leading Edge. And I, for this particular event, responsible for coordinating and staffing and kind of organizing all of the producer responsibilities and tasks. And of course, during the live event, communication with all of our internal team to make sure that their performance and responsibilities match the client's expectations.
And I am Lee Diener. I am the Chief of Operations and Training here at Leading Edge Training Solutions. And I was really focused on the design of the actual event itself, especially with some of the unique capabilities that the client was looking for, and then integrating the platforms that we needed to integrate, which was a combination of a virtual venue as well as Zoom for the main meeting sessions.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, guys. So to jump into the event summary, so I was approached by a client that we worked with in the past, and they had something very, like I said, unique about this event. It was all virtual. And like I said, we had to plan to accommodate up to 800 participants, which is definitely not a small amount of people joining. And with that being said, with the breakout sessions that they were planning, there was a choose your own adventure, meaning that those breakout sessions were fluid. In most events, we usually pre-assign breakout sessions. We tell everybody where exactly they have to go. And for this event, they were welcoming some of their top field reps to be able to speak and present about some of the things that they worked on throughout the year, why they were successful, how they were hitting their goals and achieving some of their milestones within the company. And so that they wanted to offer this fluid motion of choose the breakout session that you want to join at the predetermined timeframes that we were allowing for. Something else that was very not stressful, but we had to keep in mind and we were hesitant about was the time frame that these were switching. So these events and these sessions were switching every half hour. And to move that many participants, there was definitely a worry about, making sure that everybody's going to find the room that they want. So ease of navigation throughout the venue was something we had to set up and plan accordingly and make sure that was simple for everyone to use. So, we had about 2-month lead time before the event to plan everything out. One of the first milestones that we had to complete was choosing the venue. So in our experience, vConference, which is a virtual venue platform, was our recommendation to the client. And the reason is because there was a flexibility and ability to control what participants can see in the venue and at certain times that we want them to see it. So they didn't have access to it throughout the whole time. And the reason for that is to prevent confusion and prevent people from moving into the wrong rooms at the wrong time. So we had a general session at the beginning, a couple opening remarks, intro presentations to set the stage, and then everybody was released to move about the venue as they choose to and to pick the sessions that they wanted to. So him choosing that structure was one of the first things we had to do. And then secondary to that, we recommended the Zoom platform to be able to move and connect these virtual meeting rooms to the venue and allow everybody to move into it. So there was some coordination and making sure that the client was understood what the movement was, what our recommendations were. And as we led up to the event in August, then we were looking at scheduling out dry runs with the presenters. And this was newer to a lot of the people that participated, and managed the setup of this choose your own adventure setup. And it was there was definitely a lot of questions that came through, a lot of fielding of concerns, making sure again everybody was going to find the rooms that they needed to find and at the right times, and everything turned out great. It was overall a great success in my perspective. And to move on, Gary, if you want to talk about some of the production setup that we had to, the staffing especially to support a meeting of this size, you could jump in and talk about from your side what you had to think about and what you had to coordinate with all of the producers throughout this day.
Yeah, so thank you, John. I think that the biggest thing for us was, as you said, with the choose your own adventure narrative that went on with this particular event. We knew there was a chance that some other rooms would have less people than others. Others might have a lot more, but we still had to staff it accordingly with the same level of support. So the first thing I did, obviously, was go through our Rolodex and make sure we had the appropriate staffing in each link, in each room. And more importantly, we also made sure there was a robust communication behind the scenes system in place so that we could all communicate in real time how many people were actually in each of those rooms, and really just kind of get a bigger picture of how the interaction was going. So I think all in all, it was a pretty smooth experience from our perspective on the back end. The fact that we used the virtual venue side mixed with the front end of Zoom, the virtual venue side, we were able to track where people were going and then also kind of match those numbers with the actual logins on Zoom. So we kind of had an idea in real time of how things were going. Our biggest thing was just really prepping our team to make sure they're aware that you may have a very interactive, very large group in one room, and then in a half an hour later, that may change. The feedback we got from the attendees who actually were part of this event was overwhelmingly positive. They all agree that it was a fairly smooth experience going from room to room, in general session. So, like I said, overall, I'm proud of how smooth it was, and our production team was really able to adapt on the fly. That's a testament not just to how we trained them, but to the tools we gave them going into it. So,
yeah, I think organizing.
I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think organizing all those producers was a huge part of this, because with that choose your own venture and being it in such a short time frame, to be able to make sure that the producers are on board and know not only what presenters are coming in, because with those 21 sessions throughout that day, those breakout choose your own adventure sessions that we were running all had different presenters, different presentations that we also switched. I think it was a little bit before, within the week or two prior to the event, that we were screen sharing for them. So we had to make sure during those dry runs leading up to the event to go through the slide control and stuff. And even though we plan and try to train even the presenters on how to do that, we're always going to have some reminders in place when they join in prior to their session even starting, right? So what things did you have to think about from a producer setup to make sure everybody received the right presentations?
Sure.
Was organized? What was really helpful for you?
Well, yeah, sure. So one of the things that was majorly helpful for me and my entire team was, I know we had like a central kind of repository where you would the client would upload their PowerPoints to, and one of the first things I did from there was just organize them per room, per producer, and all of our producers had those specific links in real time, which helped because as content PowerPoints were uploaded and changed at the last minute, which they normally always are in this line of work, our producers were able to download that locally quickly without kind of skipping over me doing it for them, which was a huge help when you're dealing with this many rooms. So that was a huge help for us. Just having a central place to have all of all of our information. And again, us sharing the content and advancing slide control and all that I think was a huge win too. I think that it gave each presenter / facilitator the chance not to worry about the large numbers coming into the room. I think they were really focused on the actual deck itself. I just think that was a huge, successful idea that came down to have us share it. But basically, from a producer standpoint, from production, it was the sharing the content in one place that made a huge difference for us. So that was awesome because they uploaded it and I was able to put it into folders and give everybody links. And yeah, it just made it a lot easier.
And I think the presenters too, they were super prepared. So even though we talk about it with nearly every client that has breakout sessions, sticking to the show flow as close as possible is a real big contributing factor to the success of a meeting, right? So once you get off time and things slow down and transitions happen much later than they're supposed to, that kind of just disrupts the whole flow for the day. And by the time you're 30, 40 minutes late to the regular scheduled ending time, these presenters were on it. Even some of them finished early, and that was definitely hugely appreciated, I think, from you and the production team overall.
Yeah,
sure that movement happened.
And it also helps when you have a client that provides the decks to you, even if it's version 1 of several, fairly early on in the process. I mean, the folders started filling up, I would think, pretty early on. So I think it was beginning of that week. So it was nice to be able to go through it, knowing they're probably going to get updated, but just knowing what we were dealing with. So I mean, it was just it grows both ways. This particular client was very good about providing us early versions of their decks. So,
absolutely. That helped to make sure the formatting and the videos, and if there was anything else like odd in them, we can catch them beforehand too. So that's just part of our pre-event planning with the production team that gets done. So, kudos to you guys. You guys killed it.
Yeah, it was great for the collaboration. So thanks.
All of the producers that were staffed did a great job, and from that side, there was really no comments or feedback that were negative. Everybody had a blast with it. So something that we incorporated with this client, and Gary, this was your recommendation, and
sure.
From a support standpoint, and it was new to me, was providing a tech support line to the client. So there was several eyeballs on the inbox for this line. There was very minimal questions or concerns that were popping up. So being able to have that as an extra line of communication throughout the event was super helpful for me. And I don't know if there was anything from your side that stood out from that, but it was definitely new to me, and I definitely looked forward to providing that to future clients as well.
Having one central number to reach out to, in this case it was simply text, was far easier for us. Having one central place, and we were all kind of logged in from a support standpoint. Does a couple of things. One, it eliminates the need. A lot of times in our personal contact, from our work side of things, there's different phone numbers, but it's kind of isolated to one central command. And then we can also isolate it, per client, and the entire chat history is there. And in this day and age, I have discovered people are very familiar, and they feel very comfortable with reaching out via a text service, via voice sometimes. So yeah, I thought it was a really good, overall a good win for us. And going forward with other clients, or this particular client going forward, we should use it.
Yeah, it was great. And I think, looking at the challenges that we ran into, from my side, there was only really one hiccup throughout the whole event day, and it was already solved and fixed before the breakout session. So I'm pretty sure we were all in the general session, probably about halfway through that intro series. And we had noticed through some of the checks that there was a authentication step in Zoom that was required. So as some of the presenters that were looking to start their initial breakout choose your own adventure session, then they had to log in, and that was causing some delays of getting them in. But it was a simple restart from your standpoint, right, Gary, to be able to reset the room, remove that requirement on, turn it off really, and then we were able to get everybody back on track, right?
Correct. I mean, yeah, if if a room is not open yet, well, not even in that. I'm sorry, in that scenario, the rooms were open, but we had plenty of time during general session when the masses would come to them. I mean, we could easily have turned that off. So yeah, that wasn't a huge ask on our end.
Yeah, and to reiterate,
it wasn't an overly difficult thing for us to do. It was just a matter of figuring out the appropriate setting and then just going and doing it and then QCing it. So
yeah, and to then be able to do that before up to 800 participants were going to move.
Correct.
To reiterate that process, we have a general session, and then once everybody's ready to choose their own adventure, they make their way back to the venue. They find the session and speaker that they wanted to participate in, and they click through the venue to be able to access the Zoom link to then join the room and view the presentation for that session. So to be prepared, initially at 4 breakout sessions, 4 choose your own adventure sessions right from the start, then to get that done quickly and pretty seamlessly with some communication on some of the presenters too. It was quick, it was efficient, and we got it done for sure. And looking at that, the way we built it with up to 8 to 9 different individual rooms was because we wanted the client wanted to see some of the data behind the joining of it. And so, Lee, this is where you were able to put together some really great documentation and Excel work and with your Excel guru abilities to pretty much summarize all of the movement times, time in session, and then talk about some of the KPIs that you had built in, especially with that 20-minute mark that we were determining as a successful engagement set metric for them. Talk about some of those KPIs and the impact that data we can use for future events as well.
Yeah, so I think up front, one of the most important aspects was, to your point, we set those key performance indicators right away, which was that when we got into the workshop sessions themselves, we wanted to see those people who stayed within the sessions for 20 minutes or more, because what the client wanted to be able to do is look at behavior change potentially down the road. But they knew that they couldn't do that if somebody just jumped into a session, stayed there for 2 to 4 minutes, and then moved to another session because it wasn't what they were looking for. We did see a little bit of that, but we didn't have a whole lot of that when it came right down to it. And we looked back at the data. So the data was really set so that we could take the time that participants entered the Zoom session, the time that they left the Zoom session, and we could see their total duration that they were in the session itself. Throughout the sessions themselves, most people actually in the area of about 90% or more of the people went into a single session, stayed in that session, and then left that session at the end and moved on. The one thing that we did have to account for was a few of the sessions went a little faster than expected. And so that 20-minute indicator wasn't a good indicator because the session ended a little earlier than that 20-minute. But the other thing for us was we were also able to assess that transition time for people. And as we look at the join times and the median join times at each one of the marks, I think one of the things that was most impressive about this event is that we had the median join times were before the start time. And when you're talking about a 25-minute session with a 5-minute transition time of in the area of over 450 people, that really is something that we're paying attention to closely. And we were expecting that we would see some sessions go over a little bit and some sessions starting late. It was amazing how the speakers, and kudos to all of them for staying on time. And then the transition times for people moving from one session to the next, they stayed on time. They were ready to go at the start. And the producers did a great job at moderating those sessions as well, where the Q&A time came in too.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a collaborative effort from the client side, production side, and just the general setup and design of the venue too. So, I mean, looking at future events that could come our way, being able to offer this as a more fluid motion for a client in an event, especially in field training and support from a client, what their goals are, especially with data, is something that, I think we could offer more of. And we had a great and successful event here. Looking at overall the bigger picture, it was a lot of movement again between all the participants, a lot of different presenters coming in, a lot of producers to keep track of, and it was a great event. I don't have anything to feedback about it. One thing I would like to see, and it was a recommendation of ours, but it just didn't fit in the budget on the client side, was some more engaging features from polling, word clouds, things to really get some feedback. We did introduce some Zoom polls throughout the closing session. However, making that a little bit more engaged, a little bit nicer looking even, and fluid from that side is something I would like to see more of in the future. And we always make those recommendations anyway. So, this time we weren't able to do it. Next time, I hope it's something we can plan for future events. So, Gary, Lee, do you guys have any other closing remarks from your side?
I mean, for me, only that I think it was really a good blend of, I think number one, when you meet with the client, when you find out what their expectations are and how they envision things going, I think that all that information being communicated to us as a production team, the way it was communicated, I think it went a really long way. I think that in this particular kind of event, which is unique in that they can choose their own rooms, there's a lot of opportunity for things to fall between the cracks. And for this event, it did not. So that's a testament both to, I think, communicating with the client of what we expect from them, and really just us being prepared for what they expect from us. So that's how I kind of view the entire thing.
Yeah, and John, two things that I'd like to comment on before we wrap up here is, one, just to set the scene a little bit. This was a Friday afternoon, not a mandatory session. And we had over almost 80% of those invited attended. And that's one thing for the general session at the start. But what was even better that we looked at, we had less than 90 people actually leave the session between the opening general session and the closing general session when we took a look at it. So we only had a 19% drop off, with it being 4:00 in the afternoon on Friday afternoon, just before the weekend, which was pretty incredible that we were able to see that. Mm-hmm. I think one of the other pieces in here was we see all the outcome side of all of this, and Gary talked quite a bit to the production side, but I want to reiterate that side of all of this, because for an event like this to run as smoothly as it did, you've got to have that coordination going on in the background, watching for everything that can potentially happen, as well as continuing to keep things moving forward. And the producers themselves, and we had 2 rounds of producers, so that as those workshops were happening, one was setting up and getting presenters ready for the next round, and the other one was actually producing during the session. But those producers, as I was jumping in and out, I really saw the way that they were also moderating questions to help keep it interactive. And when you're looking at these sessions, there were a lot of sessions that were 100+ people, and yet the facilitators, who were representatives and not seasoned facilitators necessarily, the producers did a great job at keeping those questions coming, summarizing questions in a lot of cases, and keeping the session moving so that it was able to end on time. And I don't want that to go without being mentioned or noticed in that way, because one of those big pieces is the facilitators themselves were really good at sticking to the point and getting through their presentations on time. But then in those areas where there was a lot of Q&A or there was a little more interactivity going on, the producers did a good job at making sure that sessions wrapped up so we could get into the next one.
Yeah,
I agree.
Oh, great. There's definitely a lot of great things to pull from this meeting. I hope to see some more unique events in planning like this in the future, and to see us to seamlessly be able to provide the production support to reach your goals and their goals was definitely a huge success and milestone from my side. So thank you guys for joining on this let's chat roundtable that we have about this this event that just passed through, and look forward to talking about the next one. All right.
Great. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Great. Thanks a lot, John.